Chapter 1. The Ash and the Ember. The world smelled of ash. That was the first thing I registered as consciousness clawed its way back through layers of darkness. Ash and smoke and the sickly sweet undertone of burning flesh. My lungs rebelled against the air, each breath a ragged, painful scrape. I coughed, and something metallic coated my tongue. Blood, or maybe just the taste of death. I was buried. The realization came slowly, like light creeping through cracks. Heavy timbers pressed against my back. Rubble surrounded me on all sides, jagged stones and splintered wood forming a tomb that should have been my grave. But I was alive. Of course I was alive. I had always been too cowardly to die when it mattered. I pushed against the debris trapping me, and agony exploded through my left arm. I bit down on a scream, tasting more blood as my teeth cut into my lip. My arm was broken. I could feel the wrongness of it, the way bone shifted beneath skin. But I couldn't stay here. I couldn't lie in this darkness with the weight of everything pressing down on me, the silence deafening in its absence of the sounds I should have heard. The sound of my pack. I forced myself to move, dragging my broken body through the gap between fallen stones. Each inch forward was a victory paid for in pain. My right hand found purchase on something wet and sticky, and I didn't look to see what it was. I already knew. I knew the color of Ashfong blood, had seen it flooding the streets and rivers, had watched it paint the walls of the healing hall where I'd worked. Where I'd failed. The memory crashed over me like a wave of ice water. The screaming, the howling, the sounds of our defenders falling one by one as the Ashford battalion tore through our territory like wolves through a wounded deer. I'd been in the healing hall when the attack came, tending to a beta with a broken leg. I'd heard the first explosion of what's splintering, and then I'd run. The shame of it burned hotter than any wound. I'd run, not to fight, not to help, but to hide. I'd drag myself into the cellar beneath the hall, wedged myself behind barrels of preserved meat, and I'd listened to my packmates die above me. I'd listened to their screams and done nothing. I'd cover my ears like a child frightened by thunder. Now I was the only one left. The thought broke something inside me. I stopped moving, my body trembling violently against the cold stones. Tears burned in my eyes, hot and useless. I didn't deserve to cry. Crying was for people who still had the right to feel grief. I had forfeited that right when I chose cowardice over courage. I remember my mother's face. She had been the first to go. I'd seen her standing at the entrance of the healing hall, her slight omega frame positioned between the attackers and the wounded inside. She told me to run. She'd push me toward the cellar stairs with hands that had never been anything but gentle. And she'd said, "Live, Kalen. Whatever happens, you must live." She'd said it with such certainty, as if my survival were the most important thing in the world. But she was wrong. My survival was meaningless. I was a healer who couldn't heal, an Omega who couldn't protect, a coward who couldn't even die with dignity. I forced myself upward through the last of the rubble and emerged into a world that had been painted in shades of gray. The sky was choked with smoke, the sun a dim orange disk struggling to pierce the haze. The buildings of Ashfong, my home, my only home, lay in ruins around me. The healing hall was a skeleton of blackened beams. The temple where we'd gathered for festivals was nothing but a crater. Bodies lay in the streets, twisted and still. I crawled toward the nearest one, my broken arm dragging uselessly at my side. It was Kale, a young alpha who'd always had a kind word for me, who'd brought me wildflowers from the forest because he said I looked too pale. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. His throat had been torn out. I reached out a trembling hand to close his eyes, and that was when I noticed the patterns in the blood around him. Not random splatters. Deliberate. Methodical. The Ashfong symbol had been carved into the ground beneath his body. The symbol of our pack. Our legacy. Someone had taken the time to trace it in the blood of my packmates before they left. I looked around, suddenly aware of the silence in a new way. The battle was over. The Ashford forces had withdrawn. They'd slaughtered everyone and then left the bodies arranged like some kind of message. The sickness that rose in my throat was uncontrollable. I vomited into the ash, heaving until there was nothing left but dry, painful spasms. I was shaking so badly I could barely stay upright. I was the last one, the last Dash Fong, the last heir to a bloodline that stretched back to the founding of the first packs. And I had no idea why I'd been spared. I must have lost consciousness again. When I opened my eyes, the sun was lower in the sky, painting the devastation in shades of orange and red. The air had grown cold, and my body was shutting down. I could feel it, the slow crawl of hypothermia, the way my heart had begun to stutter in my chest. Maybe this was how it would end. Quietly. Alone. Perhaps that was the mercy I'd been praying for. But even as I thought it, something primal in my chest rebelled. The wolf part of me, the part that had been buried beneath years of gentle training, refused to give up. It wanted to fight. It wanted to survive. I tried to shift. My body screamed in protest, my broken arm sending shockwaves of agony through my system. I couldn't do it. I didn't have the strength. So I did the only thing I could. I crawled, one hand in front of the other, dragging my useless body across the ash-covered ground. I had no destination, no goal, just the desperate, animal need to keep moving, to stay alive, even though I knew that was the last thing I deserved. I don't know how long I crawled. Time had lost all meaning. But eventually, I heard something that made me freeze. Footsteps. They were coming from the direction of the forest, steady and deliberate. I lifted my head, my vision swimming, and saw figures emerging from the tree-line. A dozen wolves in their human forms, armed and armored, their bearing unmistakably military. Ashford Wolves. The battalion that had killed my pack had returned. I should have felt fear. I should have tried to hide. But I was beyond fear, beyond self-preservation. I was so tired, so impossibly tired. I watched them approach, and I didn't move. One figure separated from the rest, taller than the others, his dark hair pulled back from a face that belonged on a carving of some ancient god of war. He walked with a predator's grace, his silver eyes scanning the devastation with an expression I couldn't read. I knew who he was. Everyone knew who he was. Ronan Ashford, the younger brother of the Alpha King, the wolf without mercy. I'd heard the whispered stories about him, how he'd taken down entire battalions alone, how he'd executed prisoners without hesitation, how even other alphas refused to meet his eyes. He was the most terrifying creature I'd ever seen, and he was walking straight toward me. I waited for the killing blow. I deserved it, after all. I was the last remnant of an enemy pack, the last stain on the Ashford victory. Ending me would be the merciful thing to do, the logical thing. Ronan stopped a few feet away. His silver eyes swept over me, taking in the blood, the broken arm, the ash caked into my skin. His expression didn't change. I braced myself, and then he knelt. The soldiers behind him shifted, a rustle of confusion running through their ranks. Some of them called out his name, questioning. He ignored them. He knelt in the ash before me, and his hands, those hands that had killed so many, reached out with impossible gentleness. He touched my chin, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. "You're him," he said. His voice was a low rumble, barely above a whisper. I knew it. I knew you'd survive. I stared at him, uncomprehending. What? But he didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a dagger from his belt, and for a moment I thought the execution was finally coming. But he didn't aim the blade at my throat. He cut his own palm. Blood welled up, dark and thick, and he reached for my hand, the one that wasn't broken, and cut that too. I gasped at the sting, trying to pull away, but his grip was iron. "I claim you under the ancient law of the blood bond," he said, and his voice carried, echoing across the silent ruins. "By the blood we share, by the lives we've saved, I bind your fate to mine. You belong to me now, Kalen of Ashfong, and I will protect you with my last breath." He pressed his bleeding palm against mine, and the world shattered into light. The bond hit me like a physical blow. A connection snapped into place between us, so sudden and so deep that I felt it in my soul. His emotions crashed into me, a maelstrom of relief and desperate hope, and something that felt terrifyingly like devotion. I felt his wolf pressing against the edges of my consciousness, immense and ancient and powerful. I I screamed. Or maybe I didn't. I couldn't tell anymore. The bond was burning through me, rewriting the very fabric of who I was. Ronin's blood mingled with mine, and I felt the ancient magic of the blood bond taking hold. When it was done, I collapsed into the ash, my body trembling, my mind reeling. Ronin caught me before I hit the ground. His arms wrapped around me, and I was too weak to push him away. I was too weak to do anything but lie there, trapped against the chest of the wolf who should have been my enemy. I have you, he murmured against my hair. I have you now. You're safe. I'll never let anyone hurt you again. Safe. The word was so absurd it almost made me laugh. I was in the arms of the wolf without mercy, bound to him by a blood debt I didn't understand. A dozen armed Ashford soldiers were watching us, confusion and disbelief on their faces. I wasn't safe. I was anything but safe. But I was also too exhausted to care. As darkness claimed me once more, I felt Ronin's hand stroke my hair with devastating tenderness, and I heard him whisper something that made no sense at all. I've been looking for you for so long. Then the world went black. Chapter 2. The Wolf Without Mercy. I woke to the scent of lavender and clean linen. For one blissful moment, I was home. I was in my small room in the healing hall, the morning sun filtering through the window, my mother's voice calling me to breakfast. The lavender came from the sachets she always tucked beneath my pillow, claiming they helped with nightmares. Then I tried to move, and the agony in my arm shattered the illusion. I gasped, my eyes flying open, and found myself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. Vaulted stone arches stretched above me, carved with intricate patterns I didn't recognize. The bed beneath me was soft, impossibly soft, piled with furs and cushions that smelled nothing like home. This was an ash farm. The memories crashed back like a wave. The massacre, the crawling, the kneeling alpha with silver eyes and a blade that had cut my palm. The bond that had burned through me like wildfire. I sat up too quickly, and the room spun. My broken arm was wrapped in clean bandages, set properly, splinted with what looked like willow wood. Someone had cared for me while I was unconscious. Someone had. The door opened. Ronin Ashford stepped into the room, and every instinct I'd screamed at me to run. He was even more intimidating in the daylight, his tall frame seeming to fill the doorway. His dark hair was loose now, falling in waves around a face that was all sharp angles and hard planes. His eyes met mine, and I felt the bond pulse between us, a thread of connection I hadn't asked for, didn't want. "You're awake," he said. His voice was low, carefully neutral. "Good. The healer said you would be." I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My throat was raw, scraped clean by ash, and screaming I didn't remember doing. I tried again, and the words that emerged were barely a whisper. "Where am I?" "The Ashford stronghold," he said, moving closer. I flinched, and he stopped immediately, his expression flickering with something I couldn't read. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you." "Safe." The word came out bitter, sharp. "Your wolves kill my pack. Your brother ordered the massacre. And you." I gestured with my good hand, a weak, useless motion. "You bound me to you without my consent. You called it a blood debt. I don't understand any of this." Ronin's jaw tightened. He crossed the room to a chair near the window, sitting down slowly, deliberately. I realized he was trying not to frighten me. The thought would have been absurd if I hadn't felt it through the bond. A flicker of his intention, his careful awareness of my fear. "The bond is real," he said, "and it is legal, despite what the council will try to claim. By the oldest law of our kind, a life saved creates a blood debt that must be repaid. You saved my life. Therefore, your life belongs to me." I stared at him. "I've never saved anyone. I'm a healer. I failed everyone I ever tried to help." "Years ago," he said, and something shifted in his eyes. "In the forest of whispers, there was a wounded wolf pup, black fur barely breathing. You found him, carried him to a hidden cave. You cleaned his wounds and fed him herbs and stayed with him until the danger passed." The memory surfaced slowly, like something rising from deep water. I remember that day. I'd been 14, wandering too far from our territory in search of medicinal mushrooms. I'd found a wolf pup tangled in a hunter's snare, his side ripped open, his blood pooling on the forest floor. I'd been terrified. It was against pack law to help outsiders, and the pup was clearly from another territory. But he'd looked up at me with silver eyes, and I couldn't leave him to die. So I carried him to safety. I treated his wounds with everything I had. I talked to him softly, promising he'd survive, promising he'd be okay. That pup had grown into the alpha kneeling before me now. That was you. I breathed. Ronan nodded. I remember everything. The scent of the herbs you used. The warmth of your hands. The way you promised I would live. He looked down at his own hands, and I realized his palms were scarred. I've been looking for you ever since. I had almost given up hope. And then I found you in the ruins of Ashfong, and I knew. I knew I would do whatever it took to protect you. The bond pulsed again, and I felt the truth of his words. It was overwhelming, a flood of emotion that wasn't mine, desperate devotion and aching loneliness and a fierce, possessive need to keep me safe. I wanted to push it away. I wanted to hate him. But the pup I'd saved wasn't the monster everyone whispered about. That pup had been small and terrified, and he'd trusted me completely. Why? I asked, hating the way my voice cracked. Why do you care so much? I'm just an Omega healer from a pack you helped destroy. I'm nothing. Ronan's eyes blazed. You are everything. Before I could respond, a sharp knock came at the door. Ronan rose immediately, positioning himself between me and the entrance. The protective gesture was so instinctive, so automatic, that I felt it through the bond before I even saw it. Enter, he called. The door swung open to reveal a woman in council robes. She was old, ancient even, with silver white hair and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of knowledge. Behind her stood another man, tall, broad-shouldered, with the unmistakable bearing of an Alpha King. Aldrich Ashford. I knew him from stories. The conqueror of the Blood Moon War. The Alpha who had brought my pack to its knees. He had my mother's blood on his hands, and the sight of him made something dark and primal rise in my chest. Ronan, Aldrich said, his voice carefully pleasant. The council is waiting. It's time to discuss the situation. Ronan didn't move. He's recovering. He needs rest. He's an enemy survivor, the old woman said, her voice like frost. The bond you've claimed is illegal and dangerous. The council will decide his fate. His fate is mine to decide, Ronan said, and there was a warning in his voice that made even the Alpha King pause. The blood bond is ancient law. It predates the council. It predates any of you. By the oldest law of wolfkind, he belongs to me. Aldrich's expression flickered with something that might have been concern. Ronan, you're not thinking clearly. This Omega, his name is Kalen. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the councilwoman seemed startled by the ferocity in Ronan's voice. You don't understand, Aldrich said, stepping closer. The power he carries in his blood. I understand perfectly, Ronan cut him off. And I don't care. He saved my life. I owe him everything. Anyone who tries to hurt him will answer to me. He turned to face me, and I saw the truth in his eyes. He meant every word. He would burn the world to keep me safe. And the terrifying thing was I believed him. Please, I managed finding my voice. Please, I don't understand what's happening. What power? Why would anyone want me dead? The councilwoman's eyes met mine. You don't know, do you? You have no idea what you carry. She reached in her robes and withdrew a small scroll. Unrolling it, she revealed ancient symbols that seemed to writhe on the parchment. A prophecy, one I'd never seen. The first wolf's bloodline passed through the Ashfong pack, she said, hidden for centuries. The massacre was never about territory. It was about erasing your bloodline before the prophecy could be fulfilled. And what does the prophecy say? I asked, though I already knew I wouldn't like the answer. She read aloud, her voice echoing in the chamber. When the blood moon falls and the last air rises, the first wolf shall awaken from the ashes, through bond or through blood, through love or through fire. He shall bring unity or death to the entire empire. The room seemed to close in around me. I don't understand, I whispered. I'm just a healer. I can barely save a sparrow with a broken wing. Ronan crossed to me, kneeling beside the bed. His hand found mine, and I was too shocked to pull away. You're more than that, he said softly. You always have been. And I will protect you, no matter what it costs me. Ronan, Aldrich said, his voice sharp with warning. You can't. I can, Ronan said. And I will. He stood, turning to face his brother and the councilwoman. The bond is legal. It's irrevocable. Kalen is under my protection, and anyone who threatens him threatens me. I watched the Alpha King's face cycle through a dozen emotions. Disbelief, anger, concern, and something else. Something I couldn't quite read. Something that looked like guilt. Very well, Aldrich said finally. But you must understand what you've done. By binding yourself to him, you've made yourself a target. Every Alpha who wants him dead will now want you dead too. Ronan smiled. It wasn't a kind expression. Let them try. Hours later, they finally left. Aldrich escorted the councilwoman out, promising to convene a formal hearing. The door clicked shut behind them, and I was alone with Ronan again. I should have asked your permission, he said suddenly. He was standing by the window, staring out at the mountains. The bond. I should have asked before I claimed it. But I didn't have time. They would have killed you. The council, my brother, the other Alphas, they would have executed you before the sun set. I didn't know what to say. Everything I'd ever been taught told me to fear him, to hate him. He was the enemy. His people had slaughtered my pack. But the bond was a living thing between us, and I could feel him through it. His desperation to protect me. His fear that I would reject him. His conviction that I was the most important person in the world. Why? I asked again. Why do you care so much? Ronan turned from the window, and for the first time, his mask slipped. He looked young, tired, scared. Because you're the only person who's ever shown me kindness, he said. You didn't have to save me that day. It would have been easier to leave me to die. But you didn't. You stayed. You promised I would live. And I did. He crossed the room, kneeling beside my bed again. His silver eyes met mine, and I felt him through the bond. A deep, aching loneliness that mirrored my own. For years, he said, I've been called a monster. The wolf without mercy. I killed so many people, Kalen. So many. I told myself it was for my pack. That it was necessary. But I didn't believe it. Not really. I did it because I was angry. Because I couldn't find you. Because you were the only thing in my life that ever felt real. He reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek. I should have flinched. I should have pulled away. I didn't. I don't expect you to forgive me, he whispered. I don't even expect you to trust me. But I need you to understand this. Everything I've done since that day has been to find you. To protect you. To make sure the bond we share meant something. My heart was racing. I could feel his pulse through the bond, the steady rhythm of it, and my own was beginning to match it. You saved my life, I said slowly. Just now, in the council chamber. You saved me. Of course I did. Why? Ronan stared at me like I'd asked him why the sun rose in the east. Because you're mine, he said, and the words were a vow. Not as a prisoner, not as a possession, as the person I would give my life for, as the person I've been searching for since I was a pup. You're mine, Kalen, and I will never let anyone take you away from me. The bond flared between us, and I felt the truth of his words like a physical force. He meant them, every single one. I should have been terrified. I should have been furious. Instead, all I could think about was the pup I'd saved all those years ago and the promise I'd made to him. You're going to be okay. I promise. I won't let you die. I had kept that promise. And now, somehow he was keeping his. I don't understand what's happening to me. I whispered. Everything is changing so fast. I lost my pack. I lost my home. I lost everything. And now you're telling me I have some kind of power? That I'm the key to a prophecy? I can barely survive a day without falling apart. Ronan's hand found mine again. You don't have to understand everything tonight. You just have to let me protect you. Let me help you. And if I say no, the pain that flashed across his face was so raw, so genuine, that I felt it through the bond like a knife in my chest. Then I'll still protect you, he said. Even if you hate me. Even if you never forgive me. I'll do it anyway. Because you saved my life, and I owe you everything. He squeezed my hand once gently and stood. Rest now, he said. Tomorrow will be harder. The council will demand answers. The other Alphas will send assassins. But tonight, you're safe. He walked to the door, and I watched him go. Something in my chest ached at the sight of him leaving. The bond, I realized. It didn't want him to go. It wanted him close, wanted him near. Ronan, he paused, looking back over his shoulder. Thank you, I said, for saving me. His expression softened. Always. The door closed behind him, and I lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. Everything was different now. The world I'd known was gone, and a new one was taking its place. I didn't understand any of it. The prophecy, the power, the bond. But one thing was becoming terrifyingly clear. I didn't want to hate Ronan Ashford, and that was the scariest thought of all. I woke in the darkness to the sound of someone in my room. A shadow moved near the window, and I felt the faint scrape of metal against leather. A blade being drawn from a sheath. An assassin. I opened my mouth to scream, but a hand clamped over my mouth before the sound could escape. The figure was large, powerful, and I smelled the scent of another pack on his skin. Blackwood, I realized. One of Valerius's wolves. Don't make a sound. The assassin breathed against my ear. This will be quick. I struggled, but I was still weak from my injuries, still healing. My broken arm screamed as I tried to push him away. His blade pressed against my throat. The door exploded inward. Ronan's roar filled the room, and suddenly the assassin was gone, ripped away from me by a force of pure fury. I heard the sickening crack of bone, a strangled gasp, and then silence. Ronan appeared above me, his face wild, his eyes blazing with rage. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? I'm okay. I managed, my voice shaking. He didn't. I'm okay. Ronan's expression softened fractionally. He cupped my face in his hands, checking me for injuries, and I felt his terror through the bond. He had been so close to losing me. So close. Get dressed, he said, his voice urgent. We're leaving. Now. Leaving? Where? Anywhere but here. The attack came from inside the stronghold, Kalen. Someone in my own household wanted you dead. His eyes met mine, and I saw the fear that he was trying to hide. I can't protect you here. I can't trust anyone. But I can run. I can keep you alive. I stared at him, the full weight of the situation crashing down on me. The world wanted me dead. But one person refused to let that happen. Help me up, I said. I'm coming with you. The relief that flooded through the bond was almost overwhelming. Ronan helped me from the bed, his hands steady on my waist, and I leaned against him as he guided me toward the window. Through the glass, I could see the forest stretching into the distance. Endless, dark, filled with enemies and dangers I couldn't begin to imagine. But for the first time since the massacre, I wasn't alone. The wolf without mercy was at my side, and together we were going to survive. Chapter 3. The First Night. The window shattered outward. Cold night air rushed in as Ronan guided me through the broken frame. The drop to the ground below was significant, at least 2 stories, and my broken arm made climbing down impossible. But Ronan didn't hesitate. He scooped me into his arms like I weighed nothing, and then he jumped. The landing was jarring. I felt his body absorb the impact, felt the strain in his muscles as he kept me safe. We landed in a courtyard I didn't recognize, surrounded by shadows and the distant sound of raised voices. The stronghold had woken. The assassin's attack had alerted the guards. Ronan, wait, I started. No time. He was already moving, carrying me across the courtyard a sprint. They'll assume it was an outside attack. They'll search the grounds. But I know a way out that no one else remembers. I didn't argue. The bond was humming between us, and I could feel his urgency, his fear, his desperate need to get me somewhere safe. It was so strong that it almost drowned out my own terror. We reached a section of the wall that looked solid, impenetrable. But Ronan pressed his hand against a specific stone, and a section of the masonry slid inward, revealing a narrow passage that led into darkness. How did you? I've lived here my whole life, he said, ducking into the passage. I know every secret, every escape route. I've been planning for this moment since I was a pup. You were planning to run? He glanced back at me, his silver eyes glinting in the dim light. I was planning to find you, and when I did, I knew I'd have to protect you, even from my own family. We moved through the passage in silence. The walls were damp, moss-covered, and I could hear the drip of water somewhere in the distance. Ronan's breathing was steady, controlled, but I could feel his heart racing through the bond. He was scared, not for himself, for me. After what felt like an eternity, we emerged from the passage into a forest clearing. The Ashford stronghold was a distant silhouette behind us, its windows glowing with torchlight. "Can you walk?" Ronan asked, setting me down gently. "I know it's hard, but I can't carry you and watch for threats at the same time." My legs were shaky, but I nodded. "I'll manage." "Good." He pulled a small pack from somewhere on his person, a survival pack, I realized, stocked with supplies. I've been carrying this for days. Food, water, bandages, some basic healing herbs. It's not much, but it'll get us through the night. He helped me into the forest, his arm around my waist, supporting my weight. The trees closed in around us, and I felt the darkness pressing in from all sides. "Where are we going?" I asked. "The Forest of Whispers," Ronan said. "It's the one place where I know every inch of terrain. And it's neutral ground. No pack claims it. We'll be safe there for a while." The Forest of Whispers. The same forest where I'd found him all those years ago. The thought made something twist in my chest. "Ronan," I said, and he paused, turning to look at me. "The pup I saved. You said you were injured. What happened to you?" His expression flickered. "I was hunting something I shouldn't have been hunting. A creature from the old stories. I got too close and it nearly killed me." "What kind of creature?" He was silent for a moment. "I don't know. I've never been able to find it again. But I remember its eyes. Golden. Ancient. Like it had been waiting for me." I shivered. The description stirred something in my memory, something I couldn't quite grasp. "What is it?" Ronan asked, noticing my reaction. "Nothing," I lied. "I'm just cold." He didn't believe me. I felt the doubt through the bond. But he didn't push. We walked for hours. The moon rose high overhead, casting silver light through the canopy. Ronan guided me around roots and rocks, always watchful, always alert. I was exhausted, my body screaming for rest, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't afford to stop. Finally, when I was about to collapse, Ronan found a cave. It was small, barely more than a hollow in the rock, but it was sheltered from the wind and rain. "We'll rest here until dawn," he said, guiding me inside. "I'll take first watch." He helped me sit down against the cave wall, and I sagged with relief. Every muscle in my body ached. My broken arm throbbed with a dull, persistent pain. "Let me see your arm," Ronan said, kneeling beside me. "I need to check the bandages." I let him take my arm, too tired to resist. He unwrapped the bandages carefully, examining the wound beneath. The bone was setting well, but there was bruising spreading at my shoulder. He frowned. "This doesn't look right," he murmured. "There's something else here, something that isn't healing properly." I looked down at my arm and felt a chill run through me. The wound wasn't red and inflamed. It was black. Dark veins were spreading from the injury, spiderwebbing up toward my shoulder. "What is that?" I breathed. Ronan's face had gone pale. "Poison," he said. "The assassin's blade was coated in poison. I didn't notice. I was too focused on getting you out." "Is it bad?" "It's wolfsbane," he said. "Ancient. Potent. If it reaches your heart." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "How long do I have?" I asked. Ronan's hands were shaking. I felt his terror through the bond, raw and overwhelming. "Maybe a day, maybe less. I need to find an antidote." "Where?" "The Forest of Whispers," he said. "The heart of the forest. There's a place there, a pool of sacred water. It can heal almost anything. But the journey will be hard, and we'll have to go through Blackwood territory." I closed my eyes. The weight of everything was too much. The prophecy, the assassination, the poison. I was going to die, and there was nothing anyone could do. But Ronan refused to accept that. "Look at me," he said, gripping my chin. I opened my eyes. "I'm not going to let you die. Do you understand? I've spent years looking for you. I'm not losing you now. Not to poison. Not to assassins. Not to anyone." The conviction in his voice was absolute. I believed him, even though I knew it was foolish. "Ronan," I said, my voice weak. "I'm tired. So tired." "I know." His voice softened. "Rest now. I'll watch over you. When you wake, I'll have a plan." I wanted to argue, but the darkness was already closing in. I felt his hand on my cheek, gentle and warm. I've got you, he whispered. I've got you. And then I slept. I dreamed of the pup. In my dream, I was 14 again, kneeling in the forest with a dying wolf at my feet. His fur was matted with blood, his breathing shallow. I could feel his life slipping away. Don't die, I whispered, pressing my hands to his wounds. Please don't die. I promised. I promised I'd save you. The pup's silver eyes opened, and they were so human, so knowing. He looked at me, and I felt the weight of his gratitude. I'll find you, he said, though his mouth didn't move. I'll find you, and I'll save you. I promise. Then the dream shifted, and I was drowning. Water filled my lungs, cold and dark. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. But then hands were pulling me up into the light, and I was gasping for air. I woke gasping. Ronan was above me, his face close to mine, his eyes wide with fear. You were having a nightmare, he said. You were calling out. I struggled to sit up. The cave was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the moon. What time is it? Nearly dawn. I found some herbs nearby. He held up a handful of wilted leaves. They won't cure the poison, but they'll slow it down. Buy us some time. I took the herbs, chewing them mechanically. The taste was bitter, earthy. Thank you. Ronan watched me, his expression unreadable. In your dream, you were calling for someone, a name I didn't recognize. I blinked. What name? Tamsin. The name hit me like a physical blow. Tamsin, my childhood friend. The first face I'd seen in the healing hall, the one who had taught me everything I knew. Was she still alive? Had she escaped? Or had she been among the bodies I'd crawled past? I hadn't even thought to look for her. I'd been too consumed by my own grief. My friend, I said, my voice breaking. I think she might have survived. She was the first person to find me in the ruins. She would have. I broke off, unable to continue. Ronan's hand found mine. We'll look for her, he said. I promise. After we get you safe, after we stop the poison, we'll find her. I looked at him, at the man who was supposed to be my enemy, and I felt something shift inside me. Why are you doing this? I asked. You could have left me. You could have let the council execute me. It would have been easier, safer, but you didn't. You chose to fight. Why? Ronan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, because you're the only person who's ever made me feel like I could be something more than what they made me. What do you mean? He looked away, his jaw tight. I was born into a pack that valued strength above all else. My father was a brutal alpha. My brother learned from him. They taught me that the only way to survive was to be ruthless, to show no mercy, to never let anyone see weakness. He met my eyes again. But you saw me. You saw me when I was a pup, when I was weak and dying, and you didn't turn away. You didn't use it against me. You just helped me, because that was who you were. I was just doing what any healer would do. No, he said, shaking his head. No, you weren't. You were doing what you believed was right, even though it was dangerous, even though it went against pack law. You helped me because you couldn't stand to see me suffer. He reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek. That's who you are, Kalen. That's why I need you. Because you remind me that I can be better, that I can be something other than a monster they made me. The bond pulsed between us, and I felt the truth of his words. He believed every single one of them. He believed in me, and that belief was terrifying. Ronan, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I'm not strong. I'm not brave. I ran when my pack needed me. I hid while they died. I'm not the person you think I am. He shook his head. You're wrong. I'm not. You survived, he said, and his voice was fierce. You survived the massacre. You crawled out of the rubble. You kept going even when you thought you couldn't. That's not weakness, Kalen. That's strength. That's the kind of strength most people will never understand. I felt tears burning in my eyes. I didn't want to cry. I was so tired of crying. But his words, the conviction in his voice, the way he looked at me like I was something precious, it broke something inside me. I'm scared, I admitted. I'm so scared, Ronan. Me too, he said softly. Every day. But I keep going anyway. Because I can't stop. Because stopping means giving up, and I promised myself I would never give up on finding you. He pulled me into his arms, and I let him. I let myself fall against his chest, feel the steady beat of his heart, the warmth of his body. He held me like I was the most fragile thing in the world, like he was afraid I would shatter. And maybe I would. Maybe I was already shattered. But in his arms, I felt like I could hold myself together for just a little longer. We should get moving, Ronan said finally, his voice reluctant. The longer we wait, the more the poison spreads. I nodded, pulling back. You're right. We need to find that sacred pool. The Forest of Whispers is a day's journey from here, he said. If we push hard, we can make it by nightfall. Then let's go. We gathered our meager supplies and stepped out of the cave. The sky was lightening, the first rays of dawn painting the horizon in shades of pink and gold. It was beautiful, almost enough to make me forget everything that had happened. Almost. The journey through Blackwood territory was tense. Every shadow seemed to hide an enemy. Every rustle of leaves made me jump. Ronan stayed close to me, his senses alert, his hand never far from his blade. I think we're being followed, he murmured after an hour of walking. 3 wolves. Maybe 4. They're keeping their distance, but they're there. Can you identify them? Blackwood scouts. They know the territory better than we do. They'll try to herd us toward trap. So what do we do? Ronan's eyes glinted. We spring the trap before they're ready. He veered off the path, pulling me into a thicket of brambles. The thorns scratched my skin, but I didn't complain. We crouched in the undergrowth, waiting. Minutes passed. I could hear the scouts approaching, their footsteps careful, their voices low. Where did they go? One of them asked. They can't have gotten far. The Omega is wounded. He's not moving fast. I don't like this. It feels like a trap. It is a trap, Ronan said, emerging from the brambles like a ghost. But it's mine, not yours. The scouts barely had time to react. Ronan moved like lightning, disabling them one by one with brutal efficiency. Within seconds, all 3 were unconscious on the ground. I stared at him, my heart pounding. You didn't kill them. Ronan shook his head. Killing them would alert Valerius to our location. Letting them live sends a message. He crouched beside the nearest scout, speaking loudly enough for the others to hear. Tell your alpha that the wolf without mercy is coming for him. Tell him to prepare. He stood, offering me his hand. I took it, and we continued into the forest. Will they really deliver the message? I asked. Fear is a powerful motivator, Ronan said. They'll be too scared to do anything else. The sun was setting when we reached the edge of the Forest of Whispers. The trees here were ancient, their branches twisting together like the hands of old friends. Mist clung to the ground, swirling around our ankles. The sacred pool is at the heart of the forest, Ronan said. But the forest is protective. It will try to make us lose our way. What do you mean? He looked at me, and I saw something ancient in his eyes. The forest remembers the first wolf. It remembers the betrayal. It doesn't trust outsiders. But I'm not an outsider. I'm Ashfong. My bloodline is connected to the first wolf. Ronan nodded slowly. That might be exactly what we need. We stepped into the forest, and the mist closed in around us. It was like walking through a dream. The path shifted, changed, leading us in directions that didn't make sense. I heard whispers in the trees, voices I couldn't quite understand. The scent of lavender filled the air, and for a moment, I was back in my mother's arms. Kaelin, Ronan said, gripping my hand. Don't listen to the voices. They're trying to confuse you. Focus on me. I squeezed his hand, grounding myself. I'm okay. But I could feel the poison spreading, the black veins creeping further up my arm. Time was running out. Ronan, I said, my voice shaking. I don't think I can make it. He turned to me, and I saw the desperation in his eyes. Yes, you can. You have to. I'm not losing you. Ronan, I promised, Kaelin. He pulled me close, his forehead against mine. I promised I would protect you. I'm not breaking that promise. Not ever. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that we would make it, that we would find the sacred pool, that I would survive. But the poison was eating away at me, and the forest was closing in, and I was so tired. Kaelin, Ronan said, his voice breaking. Please, don't give up. Not now. And then, through the mist, I saw a light. A soft, golden glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. The pool, I breathed. Ronan's head snapped up. Yes, that's it. It's just ahead. Come on, Kaelin. We're almost there. But when I tried to move, my legs gave out. I collapsed to the ground, the world spinning around me. Ronan was at my side in an instant, his hands on my face, his voice calling my name. Kalen, Kalen, stay with me. I can't, I whispered. I can't go any further. Yes, you can. His voice was fierce, desperate. You're going to survive this, Kalen. I'm going to carry you if I have to. You're going to live. He scooped me into his arms, and I felt his body strain as he started running. The mist was thick now, so thick I could barely see. But Ronan kept running, his steps sure, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Just a little further, he said. Just a little further. I clung to his neck, listening to his heartbeat. It was steady, strong, a lifeline in the darkness. And then, through the mist, I saw the pool. It was beautiful, a circle of crystal-clear water, glowing with golden light. Flowers grew around its edges, their petals shimmering like gems. We made it, Ronan whispered. We made it. He carried me into the water, and I felt its magic wash over me. The poison in my veins screamed, fought, and then surrendered. The darkness receded, replaced by warmth, by light, by life. I opened my eyes, and the world was clear. Kalen, Ronan's voice was hesitant, fearful. I looked at him. He was soaked, his hair plastered to his face, his eyes wide with hope and terror. I'm okay, I said, and it was true. I was okay. The poison is gone. Ronan let out a shaky breath. Then he pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. You're okay, he murmured against my hair. You're okay. I wrapped my arms around him, returning the embrace. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for saving me. He pulled back, his eyes meeting mine. I will always save you, Kalen. Always. The bond pulsed between us, warm and alive. I felt his love, his devotion, his desperate need to keep me safe. And I realized, with a shock that stole my breath, that I felt the same. I didn't just trust him. I didn't just appreciate him. I was falling for him. Chapter 4. Bonds of Blood. The sacred pool's magic hummed beneath my skin long after we emerged from the water. I felt different, stronger. The poison was gone, purged from my veins by the ancient power of the forest. But something else had changed too. The bond between Ronan and me had deepened, grown roots I hadn't noticed before. I could feel him now, even when I wasn't looking at him, his presence like a warm ember in my chest. We made camp near the pool, beneath the shelter of a massive oak tree. The forest was quieter here, the mist held at bay by the golden glow of the water. Ronan built a small fire, his movements efficient and practiced. We should rest here tonight, he said, feeding twigs to the flames. The forest will protect us, and you need time to recover. I nodded, settling against the tree trunk. My broken arm was healing faster than it should. Another gift of the sacred water. The bones were knitting together, the bruising fading. Ronan, I said, and he looked up. The bond. I can feel it more clearly now. Is that normal? He was silent for a moment, his expression unreadable. The bond grows stronger with proximity and with emotional connection. The more we share, the deeper it becomes. I thought about what that meant. Every conversation, every touch, every moment of vulnerability was weaving us together. I should have been terrified. I should have wanted to pull away. Instead, I wanted to lean in. There's something I need to tell you, Ronan said, his voice low. About the prophecy. About what the councilwoman said. I tensed. What about it? He moved closer, sitting beside me in the flickering firelight. I've been researching the Ashfong bloodline for years. Ever since I learned you were part of it. I found records in the Ashford archives, things my brother doesn't know I've seen. What kind of records? Ronan pulled a small leather journal from his pack. It was old, worn, the pages yellowed with age. This belonged to your grandmother, he said, handing it to me. She was a seer. She wrote about the prophecy in detail. I took the journal with trembling hands. Opening it, I saw my grandmother's handwriting, elegant, flowing script that I recognized from the letters she'd sent me as a child. To my beloved grandchildren, if you're reading this, then the prophecy has begun to unfold. I have hidden the truth from your mother because I could not bear to burden her with what I knew. But you must know. You must understand what you carry. The Ashfawn bloodline is the last remnant of the first wolf. When the first wolf was betrayed and divided, its power was scattered among the packs. But the heart of that power, the core of it, was given to us, to the Ashfawn line. We are the keepers of the first wolf soul. When the blood moon rises and the last heir is threatened, the power will awaken. And the heir must choose to unite the packs beneath the first wolf's will, or to destroy them all and start anew. I pray you choose wisely, my child. The fate of our kind rests in your hands. I stared at the page, my mind reeling. This is insane. I can't be responsible for something like this. I'm just a healer. I don't understand any of this. Ronan's hand found mine. I know it's overwhelming, but you're not alone, Kalen. You have me, and we'll figure this out together. But what if I make the wrong choice? What if I destroy everything? Then we'll face that together too. I looked at him, at the man who had turned his back on his own pack to protect me. The man who had carried me through a forest full of enemies. The man who looked at me like I was the most important person in the world. How can you be so sure? I whispered. How can you trust me like this? Ronan reached up, his fingers brushing my cheek. Because I know you, he said. I've known you since I was a pup. You're the kindest, bravest person I've ever met. You saved my life when you didn't have to. You stayed with me when it would have been easier to leave. You made a promise, and you kept it. He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching mine. I trust you with my life, Kalen. I trust you with everything. The bond flared between us, bright and warm. I could feel his heart beating in time with mine. Ronan, I breathed, and then he kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative. A question. I felt his uncertainty through the bond, his fear that he was moving too fast, pushing too hard. But I didn't want him to stop. I kissed him back, and the world fell away. The forest, the prophecy, the danger, all of it faded into nothing. There was only Ronan, his lips against mine, his hands cradling my face like I was something precious. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I've wanted to do that for so long, Ronan murmured, his forehead against mine. Since I was a pup. Since you looked at me with those amber eyes and promised I would live. I laughed, a soft, breathless sound. You were a pup. You couldn't have known what you wanted. I knew, he said. I knew you were special. I knew I would spend the rest of my life trying to find you again. He kissed me again, deeper this time, and I felt the bond surge between us. It was like a river breaking through a dam, flooding every part of me with warmth and light. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted when we finally pulled apart. I've never been with anyone like this. Ronan's expression softened. Neither have I, he admitted. I've never trusted anyone enough. Not even your pack. Especially not my pack. He looked away, something dark flickering in his eyes. My brother. He's not the ruler he pretends to be. There are things he's done that I can't forgive. Things I can't even speak about. What things? Ronan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, the massacre of your pack. The councilwoman said it was about erasing the Ashfawn bloodline. But that's not the whole truth. The massacre was ordered by Aldrich. He was afraid of the power you carried. He thought killing your pack would stop the prophecy from coming true. I felt cold. He killed my entire pack because he was afraid of a prophecy? Yes. Ronan's voice was bitter. He's always been afraid of anything he can't control. And the prophecy is something he can't control. The power in your blood is something he can't control. So he tried to destroy it. But he didn't, I said slowly. He didn't destroy it. Because I survived. Because you were meant to survive. Ronan took my hands in his. The prophecy is coming true, Kalen. Whether Aldrich likes it or not. And I will fight anyone who tries to stop it. I will fight anyone who tries to hurt you. I squeezed his hands. I know you will. And I will fight too. I don't know if I'm brave enough to face everything that's coming. But I know I'm braver when you're with me. Ronan's eyes glowed with emotion. That's all I needed to hear. We slept wrapped in each other's arms, the bond humming between us like a second heartbeat. I woke to the sound of voices. Ronan, I whispered, shaking him awake. Someone's coming. He was alert instantly, his body tensing, his hand reaching for his blade. Stay behind me. We rose from the ground, moving into the shadows of the oak tree. Through the mist, I could see figures approaching. Two of them, tall and lean, moving with purpose. I know them, Ronan said, and I felt his surprise through the bond. They're scouts from the Ashford Pack. Friendly scouts. Friendly, trustworthy. They've been loyal to me for years. The scouts emerged from the mist, their expressions tense. The first one, a woman with sharp features and dark hair, bowed to Ronan. Commander, we've been searching for you for days. Sarah, Ronan said, and I recognized the name. His second in command. What happened? Why did you come? Sarah glanced at me, her eyes assessing. The council is in chaos. Your brother has ordered your arrest. He's calling you a traitor. Of course he is. Ronan's voice was flat. What else? There's more. The second scout stepped forward. He was younger, barely out of adolescence. Valerius Blackwood is gathering forces. He's planning to attack the Ashford stronghold while it's divided. He's using the prophecy as a rallying cry, calling for the execution of the Ashfong heir to prevent the destruction of our kind. I felt the blood drain from my face. So now everyone wants me dead. Sarah's expression softened. It's not that simple, Omega. There are factions within the council who support your bond with Ronan. They believe the prophecy should be fulfilled, not feared. How many factions? Ronan asked. Enough to keep you alive, but not enough to guarantee your safety. You're still in danger, Commander. The safe houses are compromised. The stronghold is hostile. You need allies. Ronan was silent, thinking. Then he said, we need to reach the Moonfall Temple. The High Priestess there will offer sanctuary. She's one of the few people who truly understands the prophecy. Sarah frowned. The Moonfall Temple is a 2-day journey through Blackwood territory. It's too dangerous. It's the only option we have. I stepped forward, my heart pounding. I'll go with you. Ronan turned to me, his eyes full of concern. Kaelin, it's dangerous. I know, but I can't keep hiding. If the prophecy is real, if the power in my blood matters, then I need to understand it. I need to learn how to control it. And I can't do that if I'm running forever. Ronan stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. All right, together. Sarah watched the exchange with sharp eyes. This is dangerous, she said, but it's also the right decision. The High Priestess can help you understand your power. She can help you fulfill the prophecy, whatever that means. And if I can't, I asked, what if I'm not strong enough? Sarah's smile was thin. Then we're all dead anyway, so there's no point worrying about it. We set out at dawn, traveling through the heart of the Forest of Whispers. The mist had receded, leaving the forest clear and green. Birds sang in the trees, and the sunlight filtered through the canopy in golden streams. It was beautiful, almost peaceful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. They're following us again, I whispered to Ronan. I know. He kept his voice low, his eyes scanning the trees. But they're not Blackwood scouts. These are different. Older. Ancient. What do you mean? Before he could answer, a figure emerged from the trees. It was a wolf, but not like any wolf I'd ever seen. Its fur was silver white, its eyes a piercing gold that seemed to look straight through me. It was massive, bigger than any werewolf I'd ever encountered. Ronan, I breathed. Is that the creature I was hunting? He said, his voice reverent. The one that nearly killed me. The wolf padded toward us, its step silent. It stopped a few feet away, its golden eyes fixed on me. You carry the soul of the first wolf, it said, and I heard the words in my mind. I've been waiting for you. I stumbled backward, my heart racing. You can speak. I can speak because you can hear. Your bloodline is waking, young heir. The power within you is stirring. What do you want from me? The wolf's eyes glowed brighter. I want to help you. The path ahead is dangerous. Enemies surround you on all sides. But you're not alone. You are never alone. It turned its gaze to Ronan. And you, wolf without mercy. You have done well to protect him. But your work is not done. The bond between you is the key. It will unlock the power he carries. The bond? Ronan asked. What do you mean? The blood bond was created for a reason. It was never about death. It was about destiny. Two souls, bound together across lifetimes, searching for each other until they finally reunited. That is what you are. That is what you have always been. I felt the bond pulse between us, stronger than ever. We've been, we've been connected before. Many times, the wolf said. In many lives. And you have always found each other. The first wolf was betrayed by its own kind, scattered into pieces. But its heart, its soul, was too strong to remain divided forever. So it chose two souls to carry the pieces. Two souls destined to reunite and bring the power back together. You're saying with the pieces? Ronan asked. The heart of the first wolf. Yes. The wolf's golden eyes burned with ancient fire. And you have finally found each other. Now you must embrace the bond fully. Only then will the power awaken. Only then will you be strong enough to face what is coming. I stared at Ronan, my mind reeling. We weren't just two people who had been brought together by fate. We were two halves of a whole, two pieces of a power that had been broken centuries ago. And the only way to make ourselves whole was to embrace each other completely. Is that why the bond felt so strong? I asked. Is that why I feel like I've known him my whole life? Because you have, the wolf said. Across lifetimes, across ages, you have been seeking each other, and now you have found each other again. Do not let anything tear you apart. The world will try. It will send enemies, obstacles, temptations. But you must hold fast. You must believe in the bond. I turned to Ronan. His eyes were shining with unshed tears. I always knew you were special, he said, his voice rough. I always knew I would find you again. But I didn't realize. I didn't either. I reached for his hand, and he took it. But I know now. We're meant to be together. Not because of the bond, not because of the prophecy, but because we choose each other. Every time, Ronan whispered. I will choose you every time. The wolf watched us, its ancient eyes gleaming. Good. That is what the first wolf needs. That is what the world needs. Two souls who refuse to give up on each other, no matter what. It turned and began to walk back into the forest. Follow me. I will lead you to the Moonfall Temple. The high priestess awaits. We followed the wolf through the forest, our hands intertwined. I didn't know what awaited us at the temple. I didn't know if I could control the power in my blood. I didn't know if I was strong enough to fulfill the prophecy. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't alone anymore. Ronan was beside me, his hand in mine, his heart beating in time with my own. And together, we could face anything. The Moonfall Temple rose from the mist like a dream. It was carved from white stone, its pillars spiraling toward the sky. Moonflowers grew around its base, their petals glowing faintly in the fading light. The air here was thick with magic, ancient and powerful. The silver-white wolf padded up the steps, then paused at the entrance. It turned to look at us, its golden eyes holding mine. The high priestess is waiting. She will explain everything. Then it vanished into the shadows, leaving us alone. Are you ready? Ronan asked. I took a deep breath. Yes. We walked up the steps together. Chapter 5. The Hollow's Call. The high priestess was not what I expected. She was young, barely older than me, with silver-white hair that cascaded down her back like a waterfall of moonlight. Her eyes were the same piercing gold as the wolf's, ancient and knowing. She wore robes of pale blue that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Welcome, Kaelin of Ashfong, she said, her voice like wind chimes. I have been expecting you. I stepped into the temple, Ronan close behind me. The interior was vast, filled with columns of white stone and hanging tapestries depicting scenes I didn't recognize. At the center of the room was a circular altar carved with symbols that matched the ones in my grandmother's journal. You know about the prophecy, I said. About the first wolf. I know everything. The high priestess moved toward us, her bare feet silent on the stone floor. I'm the last of the Moonfall line. We have guarded the secrets of the first wolf since the beginning, and we have been waiting for you to arrive. Waiting for me? She nodded. The prophecy foretold your coming. It foretold the bond you would share with the one who would help you awaken the first wolf's power. Her golden eyes flicked to Ronan. You are the wolf without mercy, the one who was saved by the heir of Ashfong. Ronan's jaw tightened. I am. You have done well to protect him, but your journey is not over. The high priestess turned back to me. The power within you is waking, Kaelin. I can feel it pulsing beneath your skin, but you must learn to control it. If you don't, it will consume you. Show me how, I said. Please. She smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. I will. But first, you must understand what you are, what you carry. She led us deeper into the temple, to a chamber filled with ancient texts and scrolls. The walls were covered in murals depicting the history of the first wolf, its creation, its betrayal, its scattering. The first wolf was the beginning, she said, gesturing to the largest mural. It was the first of our kind, the one who gave us the gift of shifting the bond of the pack, the magic that runs through our veins. But it was also flawed. It was too powerful, too vast, too much for one being to contain. What happened? I asked. The first wolf was betrayed by its own children. They feared its power, so they divided it, scattered its soul across the continent, imprisoning pieces of it in the bloodlines of the strongest packs. Your bloodline, the Ashfang line, received the heart, the core of the first wolf's power. I stared at the mural, at the image of the first wolf being torn apart by wolves who looked just like us. That's terrible. It was necessary. The first wolf's power was too great to be held by one being. But the division came with a cost. The first wolf's soul has been searching for a way to reunite ever since, and it chose you to be the vessel of that reunion. But I don't want to be a vessel, I said, my voice trembling. I don't want this power. I just want to be normal. The High Priestess's expression softened. I know, but the power chose you, and you cannot escape it. The best you can do is learn to control it, to use it wisely. I felt Ronan's hand on my shoulder, warm and grounding. We'll do it together, he said. Whatever it takes. The High Priestess smiled. That is exactly what the first wolf needs. Two souls who are willing to face the darkness together. She led us to the circular altar, where a bowl of silver water sat in the center. Place your hands in the water, she instructed. Both of you. The bond will help you connect to the power within you. Ronan and I exchanged a glance. Then we reached out together, our fingers brushing as we dipped our hands into the bowl. The water was cold, so cold it burned. I gasped, trying to pull away, but the High Priestess's hand was on my shoulder, holding me in place. Don't fight it, she said. Let it in. Let the power flow through you. The cold spread up my arms, into my chest, filling me with something ancient and vast. I felt the first wolf's presence, immense and powerful, brushing against my consciousness. And then I saw it. A vision. I was standing in a forest I didn't recognize, surrounded by wolves in their human forms. They were fighting, their blades flashing in the moonlight. Blood soaked the ground. In the center of the chaos stood a figure wreathed in golden light. It was a wolf, massive and majestic, its eyes burning with ancient fire. It was the first wolf. I knew it instinctively. You are the one, it said, its voice echoing in my mind. The one who will reunite my soul. The one who will bring balance back to our kind. I don't know how, I said. I don't know if I can. You can. You were chosen for a reason, and you are not alone. The other half of my soul is with you. The vision shifted, and I saw Ronan standing beside me, his hand in mine. His eyes were glowing gold, just like the first wolf's. Together, you are whole. Together, you could do what I could not. You can unite the packs. You can end the cycle of violence. You can bring peace. Then the vision ended, and I was back in the temple, gasping for breath. Ronan was beside me, his face pale, his eyes wide. I saw it too, he said. I saw the first wolf. I felt its power. The High Priestess nodded. The bond has awakened the connection. You can now access the first wolf's power when you touch each other. The more you connect, the stronger the power will become. I looked at my hands. They were glowing faintly, golden light pulsing beneath my skin. This is incredible. It is also dangerous, the High Priestess warned. The power will draw enemies to you. Those who fear the prophecy will do everything in their power to stop you. You must be careful. We will, Ronan said. We'll protect each other. The High Priestess smiled. I believe you will. We spent the night in the temple, learning from the High Priestess. She taught me how to touch the power within me, how to let it flow through me without losing control. It was exhausting, but also exhilarating. By dawn, I was exhausted but hopeful. We should leave soon, Ronan said, packing our supplies. We can't stay here forever. The scouts will find us eventually. Sarah and the other scout, whose name I learned was Alistair, had joined us at the temple. They'd been hiding in the forest, waiting for Ronan's signal. We saw Blackwood scouts patrolling the perimeter, Sarah said. They're looking for you. They'll find us eventually, Ronan said. But I'm not going to make it easy for them. We left the temple just as the sun was rising. The high priestess stood at the entrance, her golden eyes watching us go. Remember, Kalen, she called. The power is a gift. Do not be afraid of it. Embrace it. I nodded, and then we were gone, disappearing into the forest. The journey back through Blackwood territory was tense. Ronan led the way, his senses alert for any sign of danger. Sarah and Alistair flanked us, their blades ready. I stayed close to Ronan, my hand never far from his. We need to reach the hollow, Ronan said. That's the place where the first wolf's power is strongest. If we can get there, we can awaken the power fully. The hollow? I asked. What's that? It's a place of power, Sarah explained. The spot where the first wolf was betrayed and scattered. Its energy still lingers there. And we're just going to walk in? The high priestess gave us a way in, Ronan said. She marked us with her blessing. The hollow will recognize us as allies. I hope she was right. We traveled for hours, navigating the treacherous terrain of Blackwood territory. The forest was dense, the undergrowth thick. Twice we had to hide from patrols, pressing ourselves into the shadows until they passed. As the sun began to set, we reached the edge of a massive clearing. At its center was a crater, a deep, dark depression in the earth. The air around it shimmered with power. The hollow, Ronan breathed. We made it. We stepped into the clearing, and the power hit me like a physical force. It was overwhelming, ancient, vast. I felt the first wolf's presence all around us, pressing in from every side. Ronan, I said, my voice shaking. I can feel it. I can feel the first wolf. He squeezed my hand. I can too. We walked toward the crater, our footsteps silent on the soft earth. At the edge, we looked down into the darkness below. The ritual, Ronan said. We need to perform the ritual. It will awaken the power fully. The high priestess told me what to do, I said. But I need you beside me. I'm not going anywhere. We knelt at the edge of the crater, our hands intertwined. I closed my eyes, reaching for the power within me. First wolf, I murmured. We are here. We are ready. The power answered. Golden light exploded from the crater, filling the clearing with blinding brightness. I felt the first wolf's presence, immense and overwhelming, and I knew that it was finally waking. Kalen of Ashfong, it said, you have come to fulfill the prophecy. You have come to unite my soul. Yes, I said, I have. Then embrace your destiny. Embrace the power. Embrace the bond. I felt Ronan's hand tighten on mine, and I knew he could hear the first wolf too. Together, the first wolf said, you must do this together. We looked at each other, and I saw the same determination in his eyes that I felt in my own heart. Together, I said, always. The power surged through us, filling us with light and warmth and life. I felt the bond between us strengthen, deepen, until I couldn't tell where I ended and Ronan began. We were one. We were whole. And we were powerful. But then the screams started. I opened my eyes, and I saw them. Blackwood wolves emerging from the trees, their faces twisted with rage and fear. They had found us. Ronan, I shouted. They're here. Ronan was on his feet in an instant, his blade drawn. Protect Kalen, he shouted to Sarah and Alistair. Don't let them touch him. The battle erupted. Sarah and Alistair engaged the first wave of attackers, their blades flashing in the fading light. Ronan fought beside them, his movements swift and deadly. I stayed back, trying to stay out of the way. But the Blackwood wolves kept coming. There were too many of them. Ronan, I screamed. There's too many. I know. He was fighting 3 wolves at once, his blade a blur of steel and blood. I need you to use the power, Kalen. Use it. I don't know how. Just try. Reach for it. I closed my eyes, reaching for the power I'd felt in the temple. It was there, pulsing beneath my skin, waiting to be unleashed. Please, I whispered. Please help me. The power answered. Golden light erupted from my hands, washing over the battlefield. The Blackwood wolves screamed as the light touched them, falling back, shielding their eyes. They were disoriented, stunned. Run! I shouted. Run! We fled through the forest, the Blackwood wolves recovering behind us. I heard their howls of rage, but they were too late. We were already gone. We ran until we couldn't run anymore, collapsing in a small clearing. My body was shaking, my mind reeling. I did it, I said, my voice filled with wonder. I actually did it. Ronan pulled me into his arms, his heart pounding against mine. You were incredible, he said. I knew you could do it. But they're still coming, I said. They won't stop until they catch us. I know. His arms tightened around me. But I'm not giving up. I will never give up on you. Sarah appeared beside us, her face grim. We need to keep moving. They'll regroup and come after us again. Ronan nodded. We need a safe place to hide, somewhere they won't think to look. Where? Ronan looked at me, and I saw the plan forming in his eyes. The Forest of Whispers, he said. The sacred pool. They won't follow us there, but it's a day's journey. Then we start now. We rose from the ground, exhaustion pressing down on us. But we couldn't stop. We couldn't afford to stop. Ronan, I said, taking his hand. I'm scared. He squeezed my hand. So am I. But we're going to get through this. Together. I nodded. Together. And we plunged back into the darkness. Chapter 6. The Price of Power. The cave was small, barely more than a hollow in the rock, but it offered shelter from the rain that had begun to fall. Ronan had found it during our desperate flight through the night, his instincts guiding us to safety while I stumbled beside him, my body trembling with exhaustion and the aftershocks of using the first wolf's power. Sarah and Alistair had gone ahead to scout the perimeter, leaving Ronan and me alone in the darkness. The fire he'd built was small, barely more than a handful of embers, but it cast enough light to see by. You need a rest, Ronan said, his voice gentle but firm. You pushed yourself too hard back there. Using that power, it takes something out of you. I shook my head, though my body was screaming for sleep. I can't rest. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The Blackwood wolves. The way they looked at me. Like I was something to be destroyed. Ronan moved closer, his hand finding mine. You're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you. I know. I squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his presence. But I keep thinking about what the High Priestess said. About the power. About the prophecy. What if I can't control it? What if I hurt someone I care about? He reached up, cupping my face in his hands. You won't. The power is a part of you, Kalen. It's not something separate. You have more control than you realize. How do you know? Because I can feel it. His thumb traced my cheekbone, gentle and warm. Through the bond, I can feel your intentions, your heart. You're not someone who would ever hurt others intentionally. The power knows that too. I leaned into his touch, letting myself believe him. You always know what to say. I only speak the truth. He pressed his forehead to mine. You are the strongest person I've ever met, Kalen. You've been through so much, and you're still standing. Still fighting. Still hoping. That's not weakness. That's everything. Tears burn in my eyes. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm falling apart. Then let me hold you together. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me close. I've got you. I'll always have you. I buried my face in his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. It was grounding, anchoring me in the present moment. Ronan, I whispered, I need to tell you something. What is it? I pulled back, meeting his eyes. When I used the power back there, I felt something. Something I've never felt before. It was like the first wolf was speaking to me, telling me what I need to do. His eyes narrowed with concern. What did it say? It said the only way to fully awaken the power is to go to the Hollow, the place where it was first betrayed. But I can't go there alone. I need you with me. The bond is what makes it work. Ronan's expression softened. Then I'll be with you. We'll face it together. But there's more. I took a shaky breath. The first wolf showed me something else. A vision. I saw Aldrich. He was standing in the Hollow, and he was the one who betrayed the first wolf. In the beginning, he's been reincarnated, just like us. He's been trying to stop the prophecy from coming true because he knows it means his end. Ronan went very still. My brother? The one who betrayed the first wolf. Yes, the High Priestess confirmed it. Aldrich has been hunting the Ashfong bloodline for centuries. He's the reason my pack was destroyed. He's been trying to kill every heir before the power could awaken. And you're the last one. I'm the last one. And he knows I'm close to fulfilling the prophecy. That's why he ordered my execution. That's why he's been hunting us. Ronan's jaw tightened with barely contained fury. I knew he was hiding something. I knew the massacre wasn't just about territory. But this. He shook his head, his hands clenching into fists. He destroyed your pack because he was afraid of you. He killed innocents because he couldn't face his own guilt. And now he's coming for us. The Blackwood Wolves were just the beginning. Aldrich is on his way. He's going to try to stop us before we can reach the hollow. Then we reach it first. Ronan's voice was steel. We get to the hollow. We perform the ritual, and we end this. Once and for all. But Ronan, he's your brother. Can you really face him? Can you really stop him? Ronan's eyes met mine, and I saw the pain there, the grief, but also the determination. He was never my brother, he said quietly. Not really. He was my alpha, my commander, but he was never someone I could trust, never someone who cared about me. The only family I've ever had is the one I chose for myself. He took my hands in his. And I choose you, Kalen. Every time, every day, I choose you. I kissed him then, pouring everything I felt into the embrace. The fear, the hope, the love that had grown so deep, I couldn't imagine my life without him. Then let's go, I said when we finally broke apart. Let's end this. We traveled through the night, driven by desperation and hope. The forest was dark, the trees pressing in on all sides. But Ronan's hand was in mine, and I felt the bond between us bright and warm. It guided me, gave me strength when my body wanted to give up. Sarah and Alistair had returned, their reports grim. Aldrich's forces are everywhere, Sarah said. He's mobilized the entire Ashford army. He's not just trying to stop you. He's trying to destroy everything in his path. How long until they reach the hollow? Ronan asked. A few hours, maybe less. We're running out of time. Ronan swore under his breath. Then we moved faster. We pushed ourselves harder, our feet pounding against the forest floor. I could feel the power stirring within me, responding to the urgency of the moment. We're coming, I thought to the first wolf. We're coming to free you. And I felt its approval, warm and ancient, washing over me like a blessing. We reached the hollow at dawn. The crater was bigger than I remembered, the golden light pulsing beneath its surface. The air was thick with power, so thick I could taste it on my tongue. The ritual, Ronan said. We need to start the ritual. I nodded, moving toward the edge of the crater. But before I could begin, a voice cut through the silence. Stop! Aldrich emerged from the trees, flanked by a dozen of his elite guards. His face was hard, his eyes burning with cold fury. I knew you would come here, he said, his voice echoing across the clearing. I knew you would try to fulfill the prophecy, and I'm here to stop you. Ronan stepped in front of me, his body shielding mine. You won't touch him. Aldrich laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You think you can protect him? You think your bond means anything? I've been planning this for centuries, Ronan. I've been waiting for this moment. And now, when the power is finally within reach, you want to take it from me. It was never yours to take, I shouted, stepping out from behind Ronan. The power belongs to the first wolf. It belongs to all of us. You're trying to destroy it because you're afraid of what it means. Aldrich's eyes narrowed. You know nothing, little Omega. You have no idea what I've sacrificed, what I've done to keep the balance. I know you betrayed the first wolf. I know you've been hunting my bloodline for centuries. I know you killed my mother. The words came out like a roar, and I felt the power surging within me. The golden light erupted from my hands, brighter than ever before. You will not stop us, I said, my voice resonating with power. You will not stop the prophecy. Aldrich's guards surged forward, but Ronan was already moving. His blade flashed, cutting down the first two before they could reach me. Sarah and Alistair joined the fray, their weapons singing through the air. The battle was chaos. Blades clashed, blood spilled, and the hollow shook with the force of the power awakening beneath us. Ronan! I screamed, seeing him surrounded. Ronan! He fought like a demon, his blade a blur of steel. But there were too many. They were overwhelming him. Use the power, I heard the first wolf whisper. Use it now. I closed my eyes, reaching deep within myself. The power was there, vast and ancient, waiting to be unleashed. Please, I prayed. Please help me save them. The power answered. Golden light exploded from me, washing over the battlefield. The guards screamed as the light touched them, falling to their knees. The power didn't harm them. It simply overwhelmed them, forcing them to submit. Aldrich stood at the center of the chaos, his face contorted with rage. You think this is over? You think you've won? He lunged at me, his claws extended. But Ronan was there, his body colliding with Aldrich's. They fell to the ground, struggling. Run, Ronan shouted. Kaelin, run. No, I refused. I won't leave you. I joined the fight, using the power to push Aldrich back. He snarled, swiping at me with his claws. I dodged, barely avoiding the blow. You can't win, Aldrich hissed. The prophecy will never be fulfilled. That's not your choice to make. I reached for the bond, pulling on Ronan's strength. Together, we channeled the power, forcing it through the bond and into the hollow. The ground shook. The golden light surged, rising from the crater like a geyser. I felt the first wolf's presence, vast and overwhelming, and I knew that the prophecy was being fulfilled. Ronan, I said, my voice filled with wonder. It's working. He reached for me, pulling me into his arms. Together, he said, always. The power consumed us, wrapping us in warmth and light. I felt the first wolf's approval, its gratitude. You have done well, it whispered. You have set me free. Aldrich screamed, his body convulsing as the power touched him. He collapsed to the ground, his eyes wide with shock. What have you done? He gasped. Fulfill the prophecy, I said, and ended the cycle of violence. The golden light faded, leaving us standing in the center of the crater. The hollow was silent, the power settling into a peaceful hum. It was over. Aldrich lay on the ground, his body broken, his spirit shattered. Ronan stood over him, his expression unreadable. Brother, he said, his voice soft. It's over. Aldrich's eyes met his, filled with a mixture of hatred and defeat. You've destroyed everything. No, I've saved everything. Ronan turned away, his hand finding mine. Let's go. There's nothing left here for us. We walked away from the hollow, leaving Aldrich and his guards behind. The forest opened up before us, bathed in the golden light of dawn. It's over, I said, my voice filled with wonder. It's finally over. Ronan squeezed my hand. It is. And now we can start living. Really living. I smiled, leaning into him. Together, always. Chapter 7, The Awakening. We walked through the forest as the sun rose, painting the world in shades of gold and amber. The weight that had pressed down on my chest for so long was finally gone. The prophecy was fulfilled. Aldrich was defeated. The cycle of violence that had plagued our kind for centuries was broken. But even as relief flooded through me, I felt the lingering ache of everything we'd lost. My pack, my home, my mother. The faces of everyone I'd failed to save haunted the edges of my vision. Ronan's hand tightened around mine. What are you thinking about? Everything, I admitted. What we've been through. What we've lost. What we're going to do now. He stopped walking, turning to face me. The morning light caught the silver in his eyes, making them glow like captured starlight. Now we build something new, he said. Something better. The world will be different after this. The packs will look to us for guidance. They'll need someone to show them a new way. Us? I asked, a nervous flutter in my chest. You mean you? He shook his head, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. No, I mean us. You and me. Together. The bond is permanent now, Kaelin. We're connected in ways that go beyond blood. We're partners. Equals. I looked down at our intertwined hands, at the faint golden glow that still pulsed beneath our skin. I don't know how to lead. I was just a healer. I was never meant to be anything more. You were always meant to be more, Ronan said, lifting my chin with his free hand. The prophecy chose you. The first wolf chose you. And I chose you. You are the strongest, bravest person I've ever met, Kaelin. You've been through hell, and you're still standing. That's leadership. Ronin, you healed your pack. You healed the bond between us. You healed the first wolf itself. Don't you see? Healing is what you do. And right now, the world needs to heal. They need someone who knows how to put things back together. I felt tears prick my eyes. When did you become so wise? He chuckled, pulling me into his arms. I've always been wise. I just didn't have the right person to share it with. I buried my face in his chest, breathing in his scent. He smelled like pine and earth and something uniquely him, something that had become my home. What about Aldrich? I asked quietly. He's still alive. The council. Aldrich is finished, Ronin said firmly. His forces are scattered. His allies are turning away from him. By the time we reach the stronghold, there won't be a single wolf willing to support him. The prophecy's fulfillment has shifted everything. But what if someone else tries to take his place? What if another alpha decides they want the power? Ronin pulled back, meeting my eyes. Then we'll face them, together, just like we faced everything else. I nodded, feeling a surge of resolve. Together, we reached the Ashford stronghold 3 days later. The journey was long, but I barely noticed the exhaustion. Ronin was beside me, his presence a constant source of strength. Sarah and Alistair flanked us, their loyalty unwavering. The stronghold gates opened as we approached, and I was surprised to see that no one raised a weapon. Instead, the guards bowed their heads in respect. The High Priestess sent word ahead, Sarah explained. She told them what happened at the Hollow, about Aldrich's betrayal, about the prophecy being fulfilled. The stronghold was different from what I remembered. The tension that had hung in the air before was gone, replaced by something tentative but hopeful. The wolves we passed looked at us with curiosity and respect rather than fear and suspicion. The council was waiting in the Great Hall. The old woman who had read the prophecy stood at the center, her ancient eyes filled with wisdom. Kaelin of Ashfong, she said, her voice carrying across the hall. Ronin Ashford, we have heard what you did at the Hollow. You have fulfilled the prophecy. You have freed the first wolf. I stepped forward, Ronin's hand still in mine. We did it together. The bond made it possible. The councilwoman nodded. The bond was never meant to be a punishment. It was always a gift, a way for two souls to find each other and unite the power that had been scattered. You have proven that. She turned to the assembled council members. Aldrich Ashford has been declared a traitor. His crimes against the Ashfong pack and against the first wolf itself cannot be forgiven. He will stand trial, and he will face the consequences of his actions. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some looked relieved. Others looked uncertain. What happens now? I asked. The power in my blood is awakened, but I don't know what that means. The councilwoman smiled. It means the first wolf is at peace. The power will always be a part of you, but it no longer needs to be controlled. It is simply present, a source of strength and wisdom whenever you need it. I felt a wave of relief. So I can just be normal? You can be whatever you choose to be, Kaelin. The prophecy is fulfilled. The rest of your life is yours to live. That night, I stood on the balcony of the stronghold's highest tower, staring out at the mountains. The moon was full, casting silver light across the landscape. Ronin found me there, his arms wrapping around me from behind. You should be resting. I couldn't sleep, I admitted, leaning back into his warmth. Too much to think about. What are you thinking about? I turned in his arms, meeting his eyes. About the future. About what comes next. About whether I'm ready for any of it. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. What do you want? Forget about the prophecy, about the council, about what everyone expects. What do you really want? I looked at him, this man who had destroyed my world and then rebuilt it. This man who had shown me a love so fierce it burned away all the pain. I want you, I said simply. I don't want power. I don't want to rule. I just want to be with you. To heal. To build something simple and good. Ronin's eyes glowed with emotion. Then that's what we'll do. We'll find a quiet corner of the world. We'll build a home. We'll live the kind of life we deserve. Can we really do that? Walk away from everything. He smiled. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. We can do anything. Together. I kissed him then, pouring everything I felt into the embrace. The bond between us hummed with contentment, with love, with peace. "I love you," I whispered against his lips. "I don't know what happened, but I love you." Ronan pulled back, his eyes wide with wonder. "I love you too, Kalen. I've loved you since I was a pup. I'll love you until the stars burn out." We stood together on the balcony, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the moon rise over the mountains. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was at peace. But peace, I would learn, was fragile. The Council's decision to try Aldrich was met with resistance. His allies within the pack refused to accept the verdict, claiming the prophecy had been misinterpreted. They demanded proof that I was truly the heir of the first wolf. "I'll give them proof," I said to Ronan the next morning. "I'll show them the power. I'll make them believe." "Are you sure you want to do that?" Ronan asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "Using the power again, it might be dangerous. I can control it now. The first wolf gave me that gift." I placed my hand on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Trust me." He nodded slowly. "I do trust you. I trust you with my life." We gathered the council and Aldrich's allies in the Great Hall. I stood at the center, Ronan beside me, and I reached for the power. It rose to meet me, golden and warm, filling me with strength. I let it flow through me, let it manifest in a soft glow that surrounded my body. "This is the power of the first wolf," I said, my voice resonating through the hall. "It is a gift, a blessing. It is meant to heal, not to destroy, and I will use it to bring peace to our kind." The doubters fell silent. One by one, they bowed their heads in submission. "All hail Kalen of Ashfong," one of them whispered, "heir to the first wolf." I shook my head. "I'm not a ruler. I am a healer, and that is all I ever want to be." Ronan's hand found mine, and I felt his pride through the bond. "You are so much more," he murmured. "But I understand." The days that followed were busy. The council began the process of restructuring the pact system, creating alliances and treaties that would prevent future wars. I worked alongside them, offering my perspective as a healer, as someone who had seen the devastation of conflict firsthand. And through it all, Ronan was there. His support never wavered. His love was constant. Late one night, after another exhausting day of negotiations, we retreated to our chambers. The bond between us hummed with contentment, with the simple joy of being together. "Are you happy?" I asked, lying in his arms. Ronan pressed a kiss to my forehead. "Happier than I've ever been. Even after everything we've lost." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I lost my brother today. Not the brother I thought he was. That brother was gone long ago. I lost the man who raised me, who taught me to be strong. And I'm grieving. I'll always grieve. But you're still happy?" "Yes." He looked down at me, his silver eyes filled with light. "Because I found you. I found the person who makes everything worth it. And that's more than most people ever get." I reached up, touching his face. "I love you, Ronan. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want to spend it with you." "Good," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Because I'm not letting you go. Not ever." A week later, I received a visitor I never expected. Tamsin. She walked into the stronghold like she owned the place, her dark eyes scanning the crowd until they found me. Then she broke into a run, throwing her arms around me. "You're alive," she breathed. I thought you were dead." I hugged her back, tears streaming down my face. "I thought you were dead. I looked for you in the ruins. I couldn't find you." "I escaped," she said, pulling back to look at me. "I got out before the massacre started. I've been hiding in the mountains ever since. But I heard about what you did, about the prophecy, about Aldrich. Tamsin, I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I should have." "Stop." She placed her hands on my shoulders. "You survived. That's all that matters. You survived, and you did something incredible. You broke the cycle." I shook my head. "I didn't do it alone. Ronan was with me. I know." Tamsin smiled, and I was surprised to see no malice in her expression. "I know what he did. I know he chose you over everything. And I'm starting to understand why." Ronan appeared beside me, his hand finding mine. "Tamsin, I've heard a lot about you." She arched an eyebrow. "All good things, I hope." "He speaks highly of you," Ronan said diplomatically. Tamsin laughed. I like him. He has good instincts. I looked between them, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. The two most important people in my life, meeting for the first time. Chapter 8. The Ashes in the Dawn. The first year after the prophecy was strange. I woke each morning expecting the weight of dread to still be there, pressing down on my chest like it had for so long. But it wasn't. The crushing guilt, the survivor's shame, the fear that I would fail everyone I loved. It had all faded, replaced by something I'd almost forgotten existed. Peace. I lay in the soft warmth of our bed, listening to Ronan's steady breathing beside me. His arm was draped across my waist, his face relaxed in sleep. In the pale light of dawn, he looked younger, softer. The wolf without mercy had become a man who held me through the night and kissed my forehead before I fell asleep. I traced the line of his jaw with my fingertip, marveling at how different my life had become. A year ago, I'd been crawling through the ashes of my home, wishing for death. Now I was waking up beside the man I loved, in a home we'd built together. Ronan stirred, his eyes fluttering open. Morning. Good morning, I whispered. He smiled. It was like watching the sun rise. You're staring again. I like staring at you. His arm tightened around my waist, pulling me closer. I like you staring at me. It makes me feel like the luckiest wolf in the world. I laughed, pressing a kiss to his shoulder. You're ridiculous. I'm honest. He rolled over, pinning me beneath him with a playful glint in his silver eyes. And I love you. I love you too. I reached up, touching his face. Every day, I love you more. He kissed me then, soft and sweet, and I let myself sink into the moment. The bond between us hummed with contentment, with joy, with the simple pleasure of being together. When we finally broke apart, we lay in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the forest outside our window. We'd chosen to live on the edge of the territory, in a small cottage surrounded by trees. It was quiet, peaceful, everything we'd wanted. Tamsin is coming to visit today, I said. She wants to show us the new healing hall she's been building. Ronan nodded. Sarah will be there too. She's been training the new recruits. She says they're promising. Sounds like a full day. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. But first, breakfast. I'm starving. The healing hall Tamsin had built was beautiful. It stood at the edge of the main village, a large stone building with wide windows that let in the sunlight. Inside, there were beds for the sick, shelves lined with herbs and remedies, and a warm hearth that crackled with fire. It's amazing, I said, looking around. You did all this in just a year? Tamsin grinned. I had help. The villagers pitched in. Everyone wanted to contribute after everything that happened. It's perfect. She led us through the hall, pointing out the different rooms. There was a birthing chamber, a surgery room, and a quiet space for those who needed rest. It was everything a healer could want. Thank you for letting me help, I said. I know I've been busy with the council. You don't need to thank me, Tamsin said, cutting me off. You're my friend. You helped me escape the massacre. You helped me find a new purpose. The least I can do is let you help with the hall. I hugged her, feeling the familiar warmth of her friendship. I missed you. Missed you too. She pulled back, her eyes glistening. Now, enough sentimentality. We have work to do. The work was fulfilling in a way I hadn't expected. I spent my days in the healing hall, treating patients, teaching younger healers, and organizing supplies. It was the same work I'd done before the war, but it felt different now. Lighter. I wasn't carrying the weight of my pack's expectations, the fear of failure. I was just helping, and that was enough. Ronan came to visit me during my breaks, bringing food and company. The other healers had grown used to him, no longer intimidated by his reputation. They'd seen how he looked at me, how gentle he was, and they'd realized the truth. The wolf without mercy was just a man in love. You're glowing, Ronan said one afternoon, watching me organize jars of dried herbs. I looked up puzzled. What do you mean? Your smile. Your eyes. You look happy, Kalen. Really happy. I felt my cheeks flush. I am happy. I never thought I would be, but I am. He crossed the room, pulling me into his arms. Good. That's all I ever wanted. Ronan. I know. He kissed my forehead. I know. The council meetings were still a part of my life, though I'd managed to reduce my involvement to twice a month. The new system was working. Pack alliances were strong, and the threat of war had faded. The prophecy had done what it was meant to do, unite the packs under a common purpose. But there were still challenges, old wounds that needed time to heal, factions that refused to accept the new order, political maneuvering that made my head spin. The Blackwood Pack is asking for representation on the council, Sarah reported at the latest meeting. Valerius is dead, but his successor wants to negotiate. Let them, I said. If they're willing to work with us, we should extend the olive branch. The council members nodded. They'd grown to trust my judgment, even when I doubted myself. Are you sure about this? One of them asked. The Blackwood Pack was your enemy. Yes, and they're also our neighbors. They're part of the same world we're trying to rebuild. If we exclude them, we're just repeating the mistakes of the past. The councilwoman smiled. You have a good heart, Kalen. It's what makes you such a wise leader. I shook my head. I'm not a leader. I'm just a healer with a strong sense of justice. That's the best kind of leader. The nightmares still came sometimes. They were less frequent now, but they still found me in the dark hours when the world was quiet and my defenses were down. I'd wake gasping, my heart racing, the faces of my packmates swimming in my vision. Ronan was always there. His arms would wrap around me, pulling me close, his voice soft and steady. It's okay. You're safe. I've got you. I can still see them, I whispered one night, tears streaming down my face. I can still see their faces. Kale, my mother, everyone. Ronan held me tighter, his hand stroking my hair. I know. I see them too. But we survived, Kalen. We survived, and we're going to honor their memory by living well. Some days I don't feel like I deserve to live well. You deserve everything, Kalen. Everything. He kissed my forehead. You are the best person I've ever known. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. I clung to him, letting his warmth chase away the shadows. Promise, promise. The day of the anniversary was hard. It had been 1 year since the massacre. The pack had organized a memorial, a ceremony to honor the fallen. Ronan and I stood together at the front, our hands intertwined, watching as the names of the dead were read aloud. Isla Ashfong, Kale Stone, Merrick Ashfong, Sarah Fireborn. I closed my eyes, letting the names wash over me. Each one was a wound, a memory, a piece of my heart that would never fully heal. Are you okay? Ronan whispered. I nodded, squeezing his hand. I will be. When the ceremony was over, we walked to the edge of the village, looking out at the mountains. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. I used to think I would never be happy again, I said quietly. I thought the only thing I deserved was death. Ronan pulled me close. I know. I felt the same way. But we were wrong. We were. I looked up at him, at the man who had become my everything. We found each other. We found hope. And we'll keep finding it. Every day. He pressed his lips to my temple. Together. I leaned into him, feeling the bond between us, warm and steady and true. I love you, Ronan. I love you too, Kalen. More than I ever thought possible. We stood together as the sun slipped below the mountains, the first stars appearing overhead. The world was quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in my life, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. The ceremony took place in the clearing where we'd first met. It was small, intimate, just Ronan, me, Tamsin, Sarah, Alistair, and a few others who had become close to us. The forest was alive with the sounds of birds and insects, the scent of wildflowers filling the air. We've been through so much, I said, looking around at the faces of the people I loved. We've lost so much, but we've also gained so much. We found each other. We built something new. Ronan stepped forward, his silver eyes meeting mine. Kalen of Ashfong, you're my home, my heart, my everything. I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I promise I will spend every day of my life trying to be worthy. Tears streamed down my face. Ronan, you saved my life when I was a pup. You saved me again when I was drowning in my own darkness. You showed me that I could be more than the monster they made me. And I will never, ever forget that. I didn't do anything special. I just loved you. And that was the most special thing of all. He pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a ring of silver and gold. It was simple, elegant, with a tiny moonstone that caught the light. "I didn't think I'd ever find someone who made me feel whole," he said. "But I did. I found you. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Kaylin. Will you?" "Yes." I laughed through my tears. "Yes, of course. Yes." He slipped the ring onto my finger, and I felt the bond between us flare with warmth and light. The power of the first wolf hummed in approval, blessing our union. "I love you," I said, throwing my arms around him. "I love you so much. I love you too." He kissed me, and the world fell away. When we finally broke apart, we were both laughing and crying, surrounded by our friends and the forest that had brought us together. "To Kaylin and Ronan," Tamsin shouted, raising a glass. "May your love be eternal." "To Kaylin and Ronan," the others echoed. I looked at Ronan, at the man who had been my enemy and my savior, my tormentor and my lover. "You were right," I whispered. "This is where we were meant to be." He smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We have the rest of our lives, and I plan to make every single day count." He kissed me again, and I let myself sink into the moment, into the warmth, into the love. The prophecy was fulfilled. The war was over, and we were free. Free to love, free to heal, free to build a future together. And that was more than enough. Years passed, but our love only grew. We built a life together, a simple life filled with small joys and quiet moments. I continued my work as a healer, and Ronan became the face of a new pack order, working with the council to ensure peace and prosperity for all. Tamsin settled down with a mate of her own, running the healing hall with skill and compassion. Sarah became the alpha of the reformed Ashford pack, respected and admired by all who knew her. Alistair rose through the ranks, eventually becoming Sarah's second-in-command. We had children, 2 pups, both born under the light of the full moon. They had my amber eyes and Ronan's silver hair, and they were the most precious things in the world. "Tell us a story," our daughter, Elara, said one night, cuddled up between us. "Tell us the story of how you met." Ronan and I exchanged a glance. "Are you sure?" I asked. "It's a long story." Elara nodded enthusiastically. "I want to hear it. All of it." I looked at Ronan, and he nodded. So I began. It all started with a pup in the forest. A pup with silver eyes and a wounded heart. I told him everything. The massacre, the bond, the prophecy, the love that had grown from hatred and pain. By the time I finished, both pups were asleep, their faces peaceful. Ronan looked at me, his eyes soft with love. "You told it well. I had a good teacher." I leaned against him, feeling the bond between us. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't found me?" "Every day." He pressed a kiss to my hair. "And every day I thank the first wolf that I did." I smiled, letting myself sink into his warmth. "It's funny," I said. "I thought the prophecy was about power, about the first wolf, about changing the world. But it was really about something much simpler." "What was it about?" I looked up at him, at the man who had become my everything. "It was about love, about finding someone who makes you whole, about healing the wounds of the past and building something new. It was about us." Ronan smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. Then it was the best prophecy ever told. He kissed me, and I kissed him back, and the bond between us hummed with contented warmth. We had faced the darkness and survived. We had found each other across lifetimes, across pain, across everything the world had thrown at us. And we would never let go. The first wolf's soul was at peace. The world was healing. And we were together, always together, forever. The end. The bond was never meant to create loyalty. It was created to reunite 2 souls who had spent centuries finding and losing each other. Now, at last, they were home.